So I'm going to enlist Pat here. I'm going to have him start by standing at the foul line, facing back towards the settee area, away from the pins. So we're going to start with just the basic 4-step approach. It's kind of how you start bowling. It's really basic, really simple to start with. So go ahead and take 4 normal walking steps back towards the settee area. Go right ahead. All right, now go ahead and add about another half a step or so. This is going to allow for that slide at the end. Then go ahead and turn yourself back around. So now this is roughly your starting position. If you want to look behind you, you'll notice these rows of dots back here. These are all used for alignment. So you'll kind of notice how far in front of the dots you are, and that's where you're usually going to start. So now you got your starting position. So the very first time we bowl, just to knock the pins down, we're going to want you to start right in the middle of the lane. If you look at these dots, you'll notice there's one that's bigger than the rest of them, and that's the one that's on the 20th board right in the middle of the lane. So go ahead and start right around that 20th board. It's a good starting point. From there, you want to look down the lane at the head pin. It's the pin that's right in front of you. From that head pin, just kind of draw a line back towards where you're standing. And you'll see some markers on the lane. These are called arrows. There's 7 of them out there. And you kind of just look at the one that would be roughly between yourself and that head pin. So for you, roughly that third one from the right?
The third arrow.
Okay, so that's going to be your targeting spot right there. So all we're going to do, we're in starting position. You've got your target to aim at. So let's go ahead and roll the ball over that target and see if we can get that pin in the front. So to get in the proper bowling position, I want you to go ahead and pull your right foot back just a little bit. Since you're right-handed, you're going to start stepping forward with the right foot. This will get you in a walking position to start with. Now that you got the footwork started, go ahead and bend your knees a little bit, and then just kind of lean forward from the hips, just a little bit. This will get your whole body in an athletic position. It'll get you started to make an athletic motion, because it's a walking motion to throwing a ball. You do want to get in an athletic position to go. So once you've got your feet and your hips and your shoulders all kind of set up, now go ahead and hold the ball just a little bit out in front of you with your forearm parallel with the ground. And this is just a really basic, really simple starting position. So from here, we're just going to take your first step with your right foot and push the bowling ball at the same time. This is the key timing point for a 4-step approach. The ball goes the same time your foot goes. Then your steps 2, 3, and 4 follow. And from this point, all you're trying to do is roll the ball straight down the lane with your thumb in front of your fingers and follow through over that third arrow target. Go ahead and give it a whirl and see what happens. All right, not a bad effort. So just kind of to recap, again, we took 4.5 steps from the foul line back away from the lanes to get your starting position. Align yourself in the middle of the lane off the big dot, the center dot on the 20th board. Draw a line from the head pin back towards yourself through the arrows to pick your target to aim at. Get yourself in a good starting position with that right foot pulled back, the knee slightly bent, lean forward from the hips a little bit, get the arm parallel to the ground, and at the same time you step and push, like so. And then from there you just simply follow through with your thumb leading your fingers straight over your target.
All right, guys, so one of the biggest problems that we see out here on the lanes is bad alignment, and this can lead to so many problems. Unfortunately, back in the day and still today, a lot of people are taught just bowl down the 10 board, just bowl down the second arrow, and bowlers aren't taught how to adjust to the lanes. They're not taught how to aim properly, and so over time what ends up happening is bowlers start to move their feet around but still trying to hit that 10 board because that's what they were taught, and that is how bowlers all of a sudden get so insanely out of alignment, and it causes significant issues. And this is a big problem for bowlers that are very, very competitive and bowl in leagues and tournaments, and this is a problem for beginner level bowlers as well. So that's why we need to talk about alignment, because it is a massively overlooked part of the game, and it's going to be really hard to bowl your best if you're not aligned properly. All right, guys, so what do we actually mean when we're talking about alignment? When we refer to alignment, we're simply talking about the combination of where you're standing on the approach and what you're aiming at on the lane. And the important thing to remember is that depending on what the lane is asking you to do, your alignment is going to be different. So for example, sometimes the lane is going to be wanting you to play straight up the lane, so it's going to be more acceptable to be standing a lot closer to your target. However, there are going to be other times where maybe there's less oil on the lane or it's a drier oil pattern. You're going to be asked to stand farther away from your target and have a more open alignment to be able to project the ball towards the gutter and hook it back into the pocket. So the important thing to remember is that it's always fluid, and it's really important to be able to adjust that alignment depending on what the lane is asking you to do. It's important to be able to align yourself, because just because you know what you're trying to do, if you're aligned improperly, it's going to be impossible to actually execute it. So for example, say you're trying to play straight up the 10 board, straight up the second arrow, but you're standing on the 30th board. It's going to be impossible to play straight up 10 while trying to slide into the 30th board. And that is where the problems start. One problem that can lead to is an insane drift. We see all these bowlers all the time where they start on 30, but they're aiming at the 10 board, they're aiming at the second arrow, and your brain knows it's not possible for me to throw the ball straight up the second arrow standing all the way over here. So what happens? You start drifting all the way back towards your target, and it's going to be insanely difficult to repeat and execute shots when you've got a 10 or a 20 or 15 board drift sometimes. And then another problem that it can cause is that all of a sudden your arm swing starts to get out of whack. Your brain knows, okay, again, if I slide into 30 and I'm trying to hit 10, my ball's going straight in the gutter. I don't want to walk all the way back to my target, so what's one other way to compensate? Allow that arm swing to get farther from your body, and that will allow you to play straight up 10. But then all of a sudden, the ball's far from your ankle, you lose leverage, you lose power, and most importantly, it makes it really, really difficult to execute and to repeat. So understanding how to play the lanes and then partnering with that with a proper alignment is key, so you can make it easy on yourself to execute that. And to the solution is picking a break point. This is going to be your starting point. The next part of the solution is you're going to want to pick a targeting point at the arrows. Then the third step here is you're going to take the difference between the break point and the arrows to get a number. So for example, let's say your break point is 5 and you want to go through 15 at the arrows. You would take the difference between 15 and 5, which is 10. So you would take that 10 number and then add it on to the number at the arrows, and that's going to give you your laydown point. So in this example, if you're trying to play 15 to 5, you take that difference, which is 10, add that on to 15, and that gives you the board number of 25. That's going to give you a laydown point of 25 to play 15 at the arrows to 5 at the break point. And the last piece is to add 5 boards down to that laydown point, and that's going to give you your sliding board. So again, reviewing with this example of playing 15 to 5, you're going to take the difference between 15 and 5. That's going to give you that laydown point of 25, and then you add 5 onto it, and that's going to give you your sliding board of 30. So if you're trying to play 15 to 5, you want to be sliding into that 30 board. All right, guys, so Benji is now going to go out there and he's going to try to execute a shot of 20 at the arrows to 10 down lane. So if we do our math, the difference between 20 at the arrows and 10 down lane is 10. That's going to give you a laydown point of 30. Add 5 boards onto it, and that's going to give you a sliding point of 35. And one important thing to note that you'll see here in the video is that just because Benji's trying to slide into 35 doesn't mean that's going to be where he starts. The last part of this, to really take it home all the way, is that you need to know how many boards you drift. So because Benji drifts a handful of boards, he's going to start a little bit farther to the right than 35 because he knows he's going to drift a little left and eventually slide into that 35 board to lay it down on 30 and go 20 to 10 and throw a strike. So let's go ahead. I'm going to step out of here, Benji. You go ahead, get lined up, and throw us that strike.
Manipulating ball motion, there are different tricks that can help you achieve that. So today we're going to show you 3 different tricks to adjust your release. There's versatility is one of the most important aspects of the game. So if you want to be competitive in today's game, you're going to need to be versatile. You're going to need to be able to adjust to the different types of lane conditions out there. So with your middle finger and ring finger occupied, here is how can you affect ball motion by changing the placement of your index finger and your pinky finger. So first, we're gonna go to the index finger. So the wider you have that index finger is the more it's gonna let you get around the ball. And the closer that you have it to your middle finger, the more forward roll that you will tend to have. So when it comes to the pinky finger, it works on the opposite way. So the more spread out you tend to have that pinky, is the more forward roll it will tend to have. And the closer to you have to your ring finger is gonna give you a higher axis of rotation. And then in order to maximize that side roll, to give it like an extra higher axis of rotation, if you tuck your pinky, it will give you more potential to get more around the ball and therefore give it more axis of rotation. Alright guys, so the first trick here is spreading your index finger and your pinky finger. So this particular finger position is great when you need to keep your hand behind the ball and therefore giving you a lower axis of rotation. So when you're bowling on a harder pattern, when you need your ball to roll early and be smooth in the backhand, this type of finger placement is going to be the best. So the second tip here is tucking your pinky and spreading your index finger. This one is the one that gives me the most potential to get around the ball. By tucking my pinky and spreading my index finger, it allows me to create a higher axis of rotation and sharper angles down lane. Alright guys, so the third finger position that we're going to talk about is kind of like a middle ground between the two that we just talked about. So on this one, you're going to keep your pinky closer to your other fingers and your index finger spread out. So this one is going to allow you to still feel the ball on the back a little bit, but also it's going to give you the potential to get around the ball. So it's going to give you a little in between. Still, it's going to roll early, but also it's going to have enough side roll so it comes back strong in the backhand. So now that we talk about like the different fingers position there is, we're gonna go to the lanes and then we're gonna test them. We're gonna see what different ball reactions we get out of each finger position. Alright guys, so now we are gonna test the three different finger positions on the lanes. So the first one is the standard one that we talk about, like the middle of the ground release. So we're gonna keep our pinky closer to our ring finger and middle finger and our index finger spread out. So I think I'm pretty good lined up. I'm standing on 30 and then getting my ball around 20 and trying to get the hook at 7 down lane. So now that we know where we lined up with the middle of the ground finger position, we're gonna use the spread out finger position. This one is supposed to give me more forward roll, so my ball is supposed to hook early but have a smoother backhand reaction. So I'm gonna stand on the same spot and I'm gonna see how the ball reacts. Alright guys, so on that shot you clearly saw my ball definitely start hooking earlier but with a lot less backhand reaction. So that's kind of what the purpose of this finger position is. So it allows you to get your hand more of the back of the ball, therefore giving you an earlier roll. So I would say that from that spot, I'm just gonna adjust like 3 boards to the right. So I'm just gonna move everything right, and I think it should get me into the pocket. So yeah, I move 3 and 1 to the right, and definitely it gives us a more smoothed ball motion. So if you saw the other shots, we were actually getting our ball really sharp down lane, and this one gives us a more controllable shape. So actually, for these type of conditions where we see a lot of hook, I would much rather have a reaction like that because it's just easier to control. So the next and final finger position that we're gonna use today is by tucking our pinky and spreading the index finger. So this one should allow us to get more side roll out of the 3. This one is the one that I use the most because it's the one that allowed me to create more shape down the lane. Let's just see how it reacts. I'm gonna stand in the same spot where I was standing with the middle of the ground release. it's just crazy because it gives you the feeling that you can really get around the ball. It's so much more comfortable trying to do that, and it's just easier to achieve. So you saw it, I threw it at the same spot at the arrows. The ball got through the spot really good, but once it saw the friction, it just went sideways. So I'm assuming that in order to hit the pocket, I'm just gonna need to move at least 5 boards left. I'm gonna try a 5 and 2 move and try to get it as right as possible in order to be able to hit the pocket. So let's try it. I think the move was a little bit extreme, hit really light, but I hit the pocket, so that was a 5-board move. So now we're gonna try to hit flush. I'm just gonna move one back to the right and see how it reacts.
So the first bowling hack I want to talk about is ball weight. We've got light bowling balls from 6-pounders. These are available all the way to the heaviest, 16 pounds. And one of the first things I see that a lot of bowlers do wrong is they go too heavy too early. So I would recommend, if you're going to do anything, if you're going to miss one way or the other, always go lighter. So recommend seeing a pro shop, see your coach if you're first starting out. It's going to depend on your size, depend on your athleticism, your strength. And again, the first hack is bowling ball weight, go lighter rather than heavier. So the second beginner bowling hack out of the 5 is the synchronized swing, getting it started so it kind of flows and your feet kind of follow. Notice how I start my right foot, the ball side foot, with the swing as I'm going up to the line and release it. Now let's teach you how to get into that position with a 1-step drill. So the ball swings and you slide and release, swing, slide and release. So to get into that swing and then slide and release, best thing to do that is through a 1-step drill. So the technique of the 1-step drill is we want to push it, get it into our swing. When it gets behind us, we want to slide with the opposite foot for the beginners. Whatever hand you throw the bowling ball, the opposite foot is your sliding foot. So it looks like this. In a 1-step drill, you only do it about half the ball speed. So again, we're pushing, there's that push away, slide, and release. This teaches you to get the ball, that nice synchronized swing, the ball into your swing, get to the top, take your slide. Now I'm going to show you one more drill that kind of matches everything up to what you originally saw for the synchronized swing. So this is the second drill for the second bowling hack, the synchronized swing. You saw the full delivery. We want to get the foot, the ball side foot, and the swing started together, and then it's just slide on the opposite foot of the ball and then release. So this is called a mock drill. You can do this at home. You do it at the bowling center, and again, you want to get everything started together. So you saw the 2 drills. You saw the 1-step drill, the mock drill. Do these drills repetitively, 20, 25 times, and pretty soon you'll get that synchronized movement in the front, and then you'll slide and you'll really start to get some consistency. So the third hack or the beginning of the 5 bowling hacks is the upper body posture. A lot of bowlers, when they start bowling, the beginners, as they get a heavy ball, this is a heavy mass. As you get into your swing that we just learned at hack number 2, they like to take their shoulders and go with the ball. We want our shoulders to stay stable, so when we get the ball going, our shoulders stay stable. There's no motion upper body, so we want that good body posture. Here's what it looks like. For hack number 3, upper body is motionless and very, very stable. So our 4th beginning bowler hack is the follow through. Really important one here. One, we want to think of 3 things. You hear this a lot in the coaching circles. Shake hands when you're following through. And I like to add 2 more pieces to that. One is go long with your follow through toward the pins. And then the 3rd piece, toward the ceiling. So shake hands toward the pins, toward the ceiling. And I'm going to show you from start to finish. So that was the beginning hack number 4, just good follow through, shaking hands toward the pins, toward the ceiling. Do that for hack number 4. So our last of the 5 beginning bowling hacks to be in 5 minutes is have a good attitude. This is a really special sport. You can do it for a lifetime, for many, many years, regardless whether your score is high or low. Always come in a good attitude. You go out with your friends, have some great fellowship. And one thing I always tell my bowlers, the ones that I work with, is there's only 2 results in the game of bowling. One is we either win or we learn, and there is learning in this sport really until you put the ball away for good. It's a difficult sport, but the one thing I always want to remind you, have a great attitude because it's a special sport.
One of the main important things when it comes to hooking the bowling ball is your release. Depending on how underneath the ball you are, how around the ball you get, it's gonna directly affect your ball motion downlane. All right, let's go to the foul line, let's do some drills and break down the release. One of the most important things when it comes to the release is keeping your fingers underneath the equator of the ball. By doing that, you will have more potential for having more revs and eventually more hook. So one drill that you can do to help you improve that part of the game is the release drill. So let's get to it. All right, so the first step here is we're gonna get into the approach position. We're gonna make sure we bend enough, and as we mentioned, we're gonna try to have our fingers strong below the equator. We're gonna do a little swings, small ones, because you're focusing on the release only. And then you're gonna focus on releasing the ball. The most important thing about this drill is to keep your hand underneath the ball. You don't focus about speed, you don't focus about the pins, you can go to the gutter all the time. What you focus in is keeping your hands strong, in a strong position. That's gonna help you out to build that muscle memory that is gonna help you out to have a stronger release. Alright guys, so the second hack here is don't go into league thinking the lanes are gonna play the same. The lanes change from week to week. You usually are a second arrow bowler, third arrow bowler. Use it as a good starting point if you like a line, but be prepared to change that. Monday night, it's gonna be different for the next Monday night, so you gotta be prepared to adjust accordingly. If your ball is not hooking enough, one key thing to do is just move closer to the friction. Move closer to the gutter because that's where you're gonna find more friction, so you're gonna find more hook. But if your ball is hooking more than it used to, you gotta move a little bit more towards the middle of the lane where it's just gonna find more oil, and therefore you're gonna find more push. Conditions are demanding. When you're bowling in a sport pattern, you wanna take the pattern out of play. So the best way to do it for spares is just go straight at them. So that's how the pros do it, and there is a reason behind it. It's just a great way to improve your spare shooting in demanding conditions and get your scores up. So now we're gonna show you how to take some reps out of the ball and how to straighten your release so you have minimum rotation. All right guys, so we are going to get into the one-step drill. We're gonna get in like the normal one-step drill position. And earlier in the other video, when we talk about increasing your rep rate, we talk about how to have like your fingers underneath the equator to increase your rep rate. So here we're gonna do the opposite. We're gonna have our fingers above the equator, and that's dramatically gonna decrease our rep rate, and it's gonna help us to have a straight ball. So now that you can shoot straight at your spares, one key is your alignment. So now that there is no hook, no anything, you really gotta focus on aligning yourself to your target. For example, if you have like a 10 pin, you gotta make sure your shoulders and your body is leaning towards that 10 pin. Or if you are shooting like a 7 pin, you gotta make sure your shoulders and your body is aiming towards that 7 pin. So because your ball is, again, it's gonna go straight, so you gotta literally draw a straight line to your spares. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Let us know in the comments, what do you think?